So let's take care of our lining now, and let's start with the spread lining. So let's step inside the effects, go to our spread lining, so LTG spread, and let's grab this and do another separate node for this over here, and maybe readjust these nodes a little bit. So drop down a geo, which will be RNDR LTG spread, and let's double click and drop an object merge and place this here. Alright, so let's first set up a material for this. Let's go inside our material context and drop a RS builder node over here, and this can become LTG, and we will use this for all of the lining elements. So just name this LTG. Let's step inside, and we mentioned that we will want to use the point color of the geometry, so let's drop down an RS point attribute. This will be CD, and I will import this in the overall, and I want to plug this inside the emission color. So this goes inside this emission color input, and for the settings here I will drop the weight of this diffuse to 0, also weight for the reflection at 0, and if I go to my overall tab, I will just increase the emission weight to something really high, maybe 25, and we will start from this value and later adjust it. So let's go up and grab this node and assign it to our LTG spread inside this render tab. And now let's create a redshift node for this. So let's go in our out, drop down a redshift custom, and this can be LTG spread. So for this, let's go to the objects, and of course we will want the geometry for the lightning itself. So let's go here and let's grab this geometry and place this in our forced objects, get rid of candidate objects, and we also don't want to use any lights for this. So I will get rid of this candidate lights, and we don't need to place lights anywhere in here, because this lining geometry will be the light source itself by using the global illumination. And we will want this lining to interact with the debris smoke and the ground geometry. So let's go to our objects and let's select the RNDR ground and also the RNDR smoke. So select these both and let's copy these inside the forced objects over here. And technically we also need these linings to interact with our particles as well, but since these particles are so small, they won't really make much of a difference if they are there or not. So we will just have this lining interact with just the geometry and the debris smoke. And let's maybe go to our render view and create a test render. So let's select ROP and let's point to our LTG spread, and let's render a frame. Alright, so we can see that this is looking pretty cool already, and maybe I can just hold down shift and select a render region over here just so we can focus on a smaller region. And I think this is looking pretty good, so let's maybe disable this. And for the passes for this node we will want, let's go to output and AOV manager, and we will need from here the emission, which will be the lining geometry itself, and we will need a global illumination pass, which will be the global illumination concerning only the geometry, so our ground. And if I also do a volume lighting, this will give me the reflection of this lighting only on the volume. So this will be really cool. And let's do another render and let's check the passes. So again, if I select the region here, let's zoom in and let's check the passes. So this will be the beauty, and emission is going to be just the lining. And this is, we can see that this is 100% white. But if I were to go to this cogwheel over here, so the settings, and let's maybe turn on color controls, and if I turn down the exposure and let's maybe check our beauty, we can see that when I turn down the exposure, we get rid of some of this whiteness. And we will be adjusting this in Nuke. Alright, so let's turn this off and let's go back. So this is our mission, so the geometry. Then we have the GI. So this is only the reflection basically of the lining on the ground geometry itself. And separately we will be able to control how much light bounces on the volume itself. So hopefully you can start seeing that this will give us the ultimate control over our look. And inside here, inside the objects, we actually don't have to do the same trick that we did with the forced matte and the costume params for the matte for the ground, because since we are not using any lights that are affecting the ground, as a result the ground itself will be completely black. So that's good. And let's set the frame range for this to be the whole frame range, and turn this off and go to the output, go to the common. So this will be ltg_spread.$f.exr. And it will basically be the same process for the LTG strike and the LTG static. So I will just duplicate this node and let's name this to LTG strike. And let's go ahead in our object and let's go to our effects. Let's select the main LTG, so this will be the strike. Okay, so main LTG. Maybe rename this to LTG strike to keep things consistent. So grab this, go up, and let's create another geometry. And this will be RNDR LTG strike. Let's go inside, drop down an object merge, and merge this in. And also I will give this the same material as our lightning spread. So copy this matte LTG and place it over here. And let's copy this node. So let's grab this geometry and go to our out, and inside this LTG strike we can go to objects, and instead of LTG spread we will use LTG strike. And now if I select ROP here to LTG strike and render, let's maybe choose a frame here where the lightning occurs, so maybe 27. Alright, and here we have it. And we will have our emission, our GI for the ground, and our volume GI as well. Let's maybe go to the matte and let's maybe increase the emission weight to 50. And reset the render. So it's better to make the GI a little bit more noticeable and then just scale it down in Nuke than to make it too small and having it to scale it up in Nuke. So we will work from higher to smaller. And let's check the GI as well, so we can see now that we have a lot more color information to work with, especially for the GI of the ground. And inside the out settings for the LTG nodes, we will keep the settings pretty basic, so just use the quality medium. Alright, and for these we will have the global illumination enabled. And we can do a bucket render maybe to see how this will look as the final render. So depending on how much time you have at your disposal to allocate on these renders, you may want to increase the quality preset here to high or very high, or if you don't have much time you can set this to low, and these settings will completely depend to you. But because we are going to denoise the global illumination passes later in Nuke, we don't really need to have very high settings here. So we can see that the render is pretty fast, and I'm running 2 RTX 2070s. So this will be fine. And let's finally take care of our last lightning effect. So let's duplicate this, and this can be LTG static. And pretty much rinse and repeat the same process. Let's go over here and grab our LTG static. So copy this, place this inside a new node, RNDR static, drop down an object merge, place this here, and copy the material, and then copy this node and place this inside our objects, inside of the LTG strike. And also let's maybe just go to a frame here and preview this. So let's go to our ROP and choose LTG static. So here we have it, and we have our passes working as well. And now we will have individual control over all of the passes and all of the lightning effects. So inside the output, let's give this a new destination, so don't forget to do this, otherwise you will be overwriting what you already had for the spread. So this will now save to ltgstatic.$f.exr, and also the lightning strike as well. Let's also set this up. So this will be ltgstrike.$f.exr.